So moving on now, our next guest is fighting to protect students' rights to free speech under the First Amendment, co-leading a 23-state brief. The case revolves around a school district in Ohio that adopted policies requiring everyone in the school to use kids' preferred pronouns despite violating some beliefs. Now parents and lawmakers are fighting back to ensure free speech and freedom of conscience are protected in every classroom.
For more on this, let's welcome in South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. So, Mr. Attorney General, walk us through what's actually going on in Ohio and what you're doing about it.
Well, first off, the culture wars are alive and well in the local school districts. We may have won a national election and might be able to institute some reforms at the U.S. Department of Education, but in local school districts around the country, the radical left are still very much trying to indoctrinate our children and compel speech that people do not agree with. That is why I'm engaged in this particular lawsuit. This case involves a local school district, one of the largest school districts in Ohio, who is implementing a pronoun policy, or rather an anti-harassment policy that prohibited speech that people found to be offensive. Now, this even applied to students when they were off campus, maybe on a Saturday at a mall, or if they were texting their friends and there was no trans kid or was no person around who would be offended. And so we joined in with the Attorney General of Ohio, Dave Yost, and we co-led an amicus brief in support of a parental rights group who was trying to protect and defend their children's First Amendment rights. This is so important because if we don't win it here or at the Supreme Court, it will end up on South Carolina's doorstep.
Yeah, what was it about this specific case that really hit home with you?
Well, I'm a father of a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old child, and while we don't have these kind of policies yet in school districts in our community, I'm afraid that it could end up in school districts here in South Carolina. That is why I'm taking the fight for First Amendment rights and free speech to the Sixth Circuit, and that's why 22 other states have joined us. And so I'm incredibly excited about this, but you have to understand, there's a school district, I believe in Massachusetts, that prohibited a student from wearing a T-shirt that said there are only two genders, while allowing other students to wear pro-multiple gender T-shirts or LGBTQ-themed T-shirts. They were allowing one form of speech with people with the opposing viewpoint, but with students with a different viewpoint, they were prohibiting and punishing that free speech. You had the Biden administration trying to compel speech by rewriting the 1972 Higher Education Act, which obviously prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. They were rewriting the word sex to include gender identity. Again, the radical left, the woke that are intending to commit these type of culture war atrocities are really rewriting the dictionary in order to try to compel speech and indoctrinate our youth. We cannot have that. That is why we are engaged in this fight.
So the crux of the argument is you're saying the First Amendment forbids a school system from forcing students to express messages that go against their values and beliefs.
Absolutely. I mean, again, we're sitting here having a conversation about a school district that says if you call someone by the pronoun they don't like at the mall on Saturday, you could be punished for that. If you tweet or text or put in Instagram something that someone finds offensive as it relates to pronoun usage, you can be punished. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be civil to people with different points of view. I'm not saying that we shouldn't accommodate people. That's up to the individual student and their parents. But telling one entire segment of society, you have to agree with us or else we're going to bring down the full weight of the school district or the government apparatus on you, that we cannot abide. And that is, again, why we are joining with all these states and co-leading this fight to protect what you just talked about, the rights of students not to be compelled to violate their own conscience.
Just curious, do you know what kind of punishments these kids are facing, especially in this school district in Ohio?
Things like suspension, expulsion, detention. I mean, it's not, extreme punishments, but the point is, it's a line in the sand. And if you don't stop the line from being, drawn here, it's going to keep getting moved back. I mean, that's what the left does. They start with one point, and over a period of time, they gradually move it so far back that you don't even recognize your country anymore. So this is an important case. We're not doing this. I've had people tell me, Wilson, you're tilting at windmills. You should be focusing on other things. This is important. If you're a parent of a child, as I am, you should care about this case. And we're going to take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court if we have to.
So, Mr. Attorney General, you've got 25 days until Donald Trump takes office again. Do you think between his education policies, obviously his belief in basic science and fact, that this is going to shape that case? Because obviously I don't think their Department of Education is going to be doing it like the Biden did.
Well, look, Donald Trump coming into office in 25 days is going to be terrific because he's going to put in people who do abide by science and, common standards of decency and, freedom of speech and things like that. We're excited about that. That doesn't change the fact that these people operating in local school districts and schools throughout the United States are still very much in power. The educrats out there that want to indoctrinate your children, they know better than you do how to raise your children. They're not going anywhere. That's why these lawsuits must be brought. You can't fix local school districts at the White House. That has to be done state by state by state, and we're going to do it.
Mr. Attorney General Alan Wilson, thank you so much for joining us early this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. So President Trump continuing to pick on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, even suggesting hockey legend Wayne